This is what I'm thinking, and I want to make sure I say this right. Luckily, Lucas is not here because I'm sure that he would gather certain pieces of it and put it on Twitter and get me fired. So Grandy, don't do that today.
I can do it.
Okay, you might. But anyway, this is kind of what I'm saying. This whole Brock Purdy, Trevor Lawrence conversation, what you hear people say about it, to me, is a very innocuous version of the same stuff that comes from racism and sexism. It's actually like it all comes from the same place. Now, we're talking about football, so it's like, who cares? This is just, right, we're all having a good time here. But it is so fascinating to me. You think about racism, sexism, discrimination, any of the isms, not draftism, put that one aside for a second. But where do the isms come from? They come from culturally sort of insensitive backgrounds. It comes from the home. It comes from geography. It comes from all these places. But here's why it sticks. It sticks that when even you come up with provable evidence, data, history, all of these things that disprove, right, that people of color can't do this, right? Black guy can't play quarterback. Woman can't play basketball. Whenever that stuff gets totally disproved, we go ahead and believe it anyway.
Right, we double down on it.
That's where the isms come from. And so and I wonder how many of you would be willing to even just admit it for a second, or even just open your mind to even try to see it. Which is to say, you look at Brock Purdy, and for whatever reason, what is the thing that still has you feeling he's not this, he's not worth that, he's not as good as that player over there? What is that thing that still has people go, all right, Trevor Lawrence, who is provably nowhere near as accomplished of a quarterback in twice as many, if not more games, provably, with ease, provably, he gets $55 million, and I hear a parade of voices going, well, I wouldn't give him anywhere within $10 million of that. Like, start with, he's getting that. He's getting north of that.
Or he's getting probably that. He might not get north of it, but he's getting that.
It's only another year, and
right.
It goes up every year. If I had said to you a year ago, well, Joe Burrow got 55, what do you think Trevor Lawrence is going to get?
Probably 60, something like that.
Well, see, no, he matched Joe Burrow. He's nowhere near as good as Joe Burrow. Why did he match him?
Because he's got the drafted position, and he's got...
So's Joe. No?
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure.
I just think it's a year later. That's all. It's just a year later.
It's a year later, so he got what Joe got.
Yeah.
And, Brock is in a different spot because whatever raise he gets is going to be a lot bigger than the raise that Trevor Lawrence got. I don't know what he's making now, but as the number one overall pick from a few years back, he's probably making 13 or 14 already. So his raise is, about triple or 3.5 times what he was making. And for Brock Purdy, if he makes $55 million, that raise is going to be 55 times what he was making. So that's part of, I think, what people will look at as far as, what Brock should get, but it's all the other stuff as well. And I do think, and something that FP and I talked about yesterday, it's the nature of where we are in society, where people are more prone to be negative. They're more prone to hate on something, so that when something doesn't happen, you can be one of the people to say, see, I told you Brock Purdy wasn't that good, or see, I told you that Brock Purdy was the system guy. Whatever your negative take is, it almost feels better for some people to be right on the negative as opposed to be, hey, I was on the Brock Purdy bandwagon from the beginning.
I'm sure that's part of it. That's the age of social media. By the way, the question you were asking, his rookie deal, Trevor Lawrence, was 4 years, $36.7 million.
Okay.
And he's still on that. He's still on that through this coming season. And then this new one's gonna hop in. And by the way, for those of you, and I know we do this, we jump forward as if everybody knows exactly what happened with Trevor Lawrence yesterday. 5 years, $275 million. That's an average of $55 million. We know that a lot of that is funny money, but his guarantee is $200 million, which I think is only, how many quarterbacks are above the $200 million guarantee? I know there's Deshaun. Anyone else?
I think that's it. As far as the guarantee, and then there's the real guarantee.
Yeah.
I had it yesterday, and I think Trevor Lawrence was third on that list. I'll see if I can pull up
his
again.
guarantee at sign is $142 million. The total guarantee is $200 million.
Right.
That beats just about everybody out there not named Deshaun Watson. Maybe I'm forgetting someone else. You know what I mean? That doubles Josh Allen's guarantee. Doubles it. See, and that's the secondary piece of this. I'd love to pick at why people still want to not sort of believe that Brock gets to play in this sandbox.
There's four of them, Mark. It's Watson, Burrow, Herbert, and Lawrence. They're above 200.
Above 200. Okay, so Burrow and Herbert are the other two.
Yeah.
All right.
And Deshaun is 230 guaranteed at signing.
Well, his was fully.
Right.
The whole thing.
Right.
The whole
Which
kit
is
and caboodle.
Crazy.
It's hysterical.
Yep.
So, does Brock belong playing in this sandbox is one side of it. But the other side of it is I just think people who are fighting this are fighting clouds. You're punching a cloud. There's no argument. There's no, sorry, if you have Kyler Murray on your team and you're like, we don't think you're great, but we don't really have another boom, pay him. Trevor Lawrence doubles Josh Allen's guarantee. Anybody want Trevor over Josh? No, doesn't matter. Brock is next.
Yeah.
Dak is next. Tua is next. And you can think it's beautiful that the three of them are together because all three of them are so debatable, right? Brock and Dak and Tua, and all for three different reasons why you would debate whether or not they're worth it. And I just look at it and go, there ain't any chance in hell that any of these three football teams are deciding to move on from these guys. So that's really all you got to ask yourself. I think it's the funniest conversation in sports media right now. What would you pay Brock? You don't get a say.
Right.
The question is, do you want to keep him or not? Forget the money. Do you want to keep him or not? That's what it costs. It's just like with a quarterback who plays well. It's like going to the store. You go to Target, pick up a bag of chips, go walk up to an employee and say, I'd like this for $1 less. What do you think they're going to say?
Right.
No.
That's the price.
That's what it costs.
Exactly.
So you either get the chips or you walk out of here without the chips. That's what we're doing here with Brock Purdy.
And it's going to be an expensive bag of chips is what it's going to be.
You want the chips or not?
And if he plays even close to how he's played the last year and a half, then the bag of chips is going to cost you probably about what Trevor Lawrence just got.
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily.
It might not be a lot more. It probably won't be a lot less. It'll probably be about right where it was, and that's going to be the way that goes.
Well, and I don't know what's going to happen first, Tua and Dak and Brock. And obviously the beauty of all of this is that we get more data. So that's my only qualifier is something could happen to Brock.
Yeah.
Something could happen to him this year that changes this conversation. Maybe he does go out and just play awful, or maybe there's a terrible injury. I sure hope not. There's very little evidence that suddenly, the slipper is just going to not fit anymore. Even when he doesn't play well, it's like for a moment here or there, the record is the record and the results are the results. There is no, hey, what about 45 a year? If I'm Brock's agent, I don't even qualify that with a response.
Right.
I sit down at the table. Hey, we're thinking 45 a year. This meeting's over. I'm out. What are you going to do? That's not what this costs.
Right, and I don't think that the team would even think about going in at that level. And, the report from Mike Silver earlier in the week that they were at $26 million for Brandon Ayuk.
That was interesting.
That's a reasonable offer to go ahead and leak that out. But if you're Ayuk, you're probably thinking closer to 30. So the reality will probably land somewhere in between all that. But to offer Brandon Ayuk 26 is different than trying to offer your quarterback, your QB1, who's been unbelievable, 45, when the market's now been set at 55 for a guy who is, at the very least, you're comparable to Trevor Lawrence. Even if you want to make that argument, and I think that Brock has been better than Trevor's been in his 3 years. Brock's year and a half has been better. But even if you want to say Brock and Trevor, you guys are comparable, well, then that's $55 million. That's where comparable is. That's where comparable is. But right. Even when you look at it, like you said, next year, the cap goes up, salaries go up, everything always goes up. I don't know if you've bought milk lately, but milk's a little bit more expensive than it was a year ago, 4 years ago, 30 years ago, and the quarterback market's the exact same.
I mean, I only buy the eggs at Costco now. There you go to any grocery store out there, and they'll be like, super fancy organic eggs from down the street farm.
Yep.
That's like $7.49. But if you want these cheap ones over here, well, that's $6.99. Well, what are we doing here? What are we doing? You're right. Everything is so expensive.
Brock Purdy is that organic farm-raised egg.
Yep.
He's not some just, hey, we found this egg down the street kind of egg.
I wonder if anybody's thought about this. So we're sitting here today with this baseline of $55 million. Burrow, Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. Okay. And Brock has achieved more than all of them. Okay, that's fine. Have you wrapped your head around this possibility? If Brock Purdy is healthy for another season, guess who he gets to play with this year? All the same people again.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey and Debo and presumably Brandon Ayuk. And now we get Pearsall and Juwan Jennings and George Kittle and Trent Williams and Kyle Shanahan's calling his plays. I would argue there is a much better chance of him getting 60 than there is under 50. Because while we sit here and go, well, there's another year, we got to get data. What do you think the likelihood is that's going to happen this year for 49er football? Think any chance they're good? Any chance the Niners have a good year? Got any good players on the team? What if he does it again? Now what are you paying him?
Yeah. It's just
whatever he
pretty much
wants.
You know, he's going to be the third highest paid quarterback this year on his own team.